is not definitely known who or when the Native American first settled the Americas and the present-day United States. The prevailing theory proposed that people migrated from Eurasia across Bering and land bridge to connect Siberia to present Alaska during the Ice Age. The pre-Columbian era incorporates all period subdivisions in the history and prehistory of America before the appearance and significant European influence on American continent, sparking the time of the original settlement in the Upper Paleolithic period, the European colonization during the early modern period. Native American cultures are now normally include the characterization of advanced stage of culture of Neolithic, which is a category that more often includes only the cultures in Eurasia, Africa, and other regions. The Angloculture was a Native American culture that exists from 1000 before Christ to 200 before Christ, in a time known as the early Wonderland period. The Wonderland culture refers to one or probably number of relative Native American society sharing a burial, complex and ceremonial system. The Coles Creek culture is an ingenious development of the lower Mississippi Valley that took place between the terminal Woodland period and later Palenque culture period. This period is marked by increased use to flat-topper platforms around Central Place. The Hong Kong camp was a culture center along the Southwest. The early Hong Kong founded a series of small villages along the Middle Gila River. They raised corn, squash, and bears. The communities were local near good arable land, with a dairy farming common in the early years of this period. The ancestral Puebloan culture covered present-day four corner regions in the USA, comprising southern Utah, northern Arizona, northwestern New Mexico, and southwestern Colorado. It is believed that the ancestral Puebloans developed at Easter in part from the Osage tradition, who developed from the Picosa culture. Mississippian culture. The Mississippian culture which extended around the Idaho and Mississippi valleys and building sites around the Southwest. Created the largest earthworks in North America, north of Mexico, most notably at Canonica, on a tribute of the Mississippi River in the present-day islands. The Iroquois language of national of people of the Longhouse, based in present-day upstate and western New York, had a conferring model of the mid-15th century. It has been suggested that their culture contributed to political thinking during the developing of later United States government. Their system of affiliation was kin a federation, different from strong Central European monarchies.
The early 1600s saw the beginning of a great tide of immigration from Europe to North America. Immigration from England often was not directly sponsored by the government but by private groups of individuals. Europeans brought horses, cattle, and hogs to the Americas and, in turn, took back to Europe maize, turkeys, potatoes, tobacco, beans, and squash. The first English colony was founded at Jamestown, Virginia in 1607. Early settlements developed in New England in the middle colonies and the southern colonies. In 1620, the Pilgrims arrived on the Mayflower and founded Plymouth Colony in Massachusetts. In 1681, William Penn received a large tract of land which became known as Pennsylvania. The first German community was established in Pennsylvania in 1683. By 1733, 13 English colonies had been established along the Atlantic coast. The 13 were New Hampshire, Massachusetts Bay, Connecticut, Rhode Island and Providence plantations, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. England was not the only country to settle what would become the United States. In the 1500s, Spain built a fort at St. Augustine, Florida. France settled Louisiana and the area around the Great Lakes. The Dutch settled New York, which they called New Netherland. Other areas were settled by Scotch-Irish, Germans, and Swedes. However, in time, England controlled all of the colonies, and most American colonists adopted the English way of life. The growth of the colonies was not good for Native Americans. Many of them died of smallpox, a disease brought to America by the Europeans. The ones who lived lost their lands to the colonists. Slavery was legal and practiced in many of the 13 colonies. In most places, it involved house servants or farm workers. It was of economic importance in the export-oriented tobacco plantations of Virginia and Maryland, and the rice and indigo plantations of South Carolina. African slaves were brought to America for a lifetime of involuntary servitude. The 13 colonies had very similar political, constitutional, and legal systems, and were dominated by Protestant English speakers. They were part of Britain's possessions in the New World, which also included colonies in present-day Canada and the Caribbean, as well as East and West Florida. In the 18th century, the British government operated its colonies under a policy of mercantilism, in which the central government administered its possessions for the economic benefit of the mother country. The goal was to enrich Britain. However, the 13 colonies had a high degree of self-government and active local elections, and increasingly resisted London's demands for more control. In the 1750s, the colonies began collaborating with each other instead of dealing directly with Britain. From 1754 to 1763, England and France fought a war over the land in America called the 7 Years' War, or the French and Indian War, which the English won. After the war, they issued the Proclamation of 1763. It said that people who lived in the 13 colonies could not live west of the Appalachian Mountains. Many colonists who wanted to move to the frontier did not like the proclamation.
The War of Independence of the United States was a conflict that faced the original 13 British colonies in North America against the Kingdom of Great Britain. It occurred between 1775 and 1783, ending with the British defeat at the Battle of Yorktown on the signing of the Treaty of Paris. The immediate cause of this conflict was the unfair treatment that Britain inflicted on the settlers, who paid rates and taxes to the metropolis, so they felt marginalized and not represented. In 1774, the Colonists' Congress met for the first time against British servitude and in favor of an independent homeland. It was the First Continental Congress. In May of 1775, a Second Continental Congress met in Philadelphia and began to assume the functions of national government. It named 14 generals, authorized the invasion of Canada, and organized a campaigning army with the help of George Washington. On July 2, 1776, Congress finally resolved that the United Colonies are and by right should be free and sovereign states. On July 4, 1776, 56 USA congressmen met to approve the Declaration of Independence of the United States, which Thomas Jefferson drafted with the help of other Virginia citizens. In the Congress were four of the main figures of the independence: George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, and John Adams. The Treaty of Paris was signed the September 3, 1783, between Great Britain and the United States, and put an end to the War of Independence of the United States.
The American Civil War started in 1861 and ended in 1865. The opposing sides were the force of the states of the North against the newly formed Confederate States of America, consisting of 11 states of the South: South Carolina, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Texas, Virginia, Arkansas, Tennessee, and North Carolina, which would proclaim their independence. Jefferson Davis was the president of the Confederate States. The first act of war was the assault Confederate from the south to the garrison of Fort Sumter on April 12, 1861. Initially, they were 7 states, but then, for the repression by the Army of the North to recover Fort Sumter, did the southern states, Virginia, Arkansas, Tennessee, and North Carolina, join them. For this, the Civil War starts between the Confederate States of the South and the Northern states. This was a battle between two types of economy, an industrial abolitionist, North, and another agrarian slaver, South. Lincoln's priority was to keep United States as one country. After initial losses of the first battles, he wanted to stop the war with another struggle against slavery. For this, on January 1, 1863, issued the Emancipation Proclamation that granted freedom to all slaves in areas still controlled by the Confederacy. During the Civil War were played 391 battles in 28 states of American Union. The war met two key issues that had divided the United States from 1776. Put an end to slavery, which was completely abolished by the Article 13 of the Constitution in 1865, and decide that the United States is one nation and it is indivisible. After 4 years of war, the Union was preserved and freed the slaves in addition to promoting civil rights movement against social and economic system in order to ensure equality of opportunity for slaves in terms of housing, education, and work.
The Cold War was a long period of tension between the democracies of the Western world and the communist countries of Eastern Europe. The West was led by the United States, and Eastern Europe was led by the Soviet Union. These two countries became known as superpowers. Although the two superpowers never officially declared war on each other, they fought indirectly in proxy wars, the arms race, and the space race. The Cold War began not too long after World War II ended in 1945. Although the Soviet Union was an important member of the Allied powers, there was great distrust between the Soviet Union and the rest of the Allies. The Allies were concerned with the brutal leadership of Joseph Stalin as well as the spread of communism. The Cold War came to an end with the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1999. Proxy wars. The Cold War was often fought between the superpowers of the United States and the Soviet Union in something called a proxy war. These were wars fought between other countries, but with each side getting support from a different superpower. Examples of proxy war include the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Yom Kippur War, and the Soviet-Afghanistan War. Arms race and space race. The United States and the Soviet Union also tried to fight a Cold War by demonstrating their power and technology. One example of this was the arms race, where each side tried to have the best weapons and the most nuclear bombs. The idea was that a large stockpile of weapons will deter the other side from ever attacking. Another example was the space race, where each side tried to show that it had the better scientists and technology by accomplishing certain space missions first.